What is going on, lovely people? Welcome to another episode of the Editorial Podcast. I'm Nikki.
And this is Chris coming at you with 2,918,000 average raccoon lengths between us. Thank you so much for tuning in. Nikki, another week in quarantine. Trademark ting. Anything you want to talk about?
Wait, first off, what the actual fuck with the raccoons?
Okay, so I feel like I have to add some backstory. So I kind of cheated a little bit this week.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I cheated a little bit this week with the measurements between us because the city of Toronto decided that they would put up these really like cheeky social distancing signs, which is very funny. Like they have one that says like you have to keep 2 meters apart or 2 geese length apart or 3 raccoons apart. So that means that 3 raccoons equals 2 meters. So math.
Oh God.
I had to like pull out algebra for like the first time since like grade 12.
Toronto has this weird obsession with raccoons.
Because they're everywhere. Our city is overrun with raccoons. Like last night, I was trying to like learn how to like DSLR camera because I'm not the brightest bulb in the chandelier when it comes to technology.
Right.
So I have this Canon Rebel that I was like, I'm going to learn how to shoot manual because this is the thing that people do when they're trying to, you know, pass time in quarantine. Trademark ting.
No. No, we're not making that happen.
I'm going to make this a thing. Just watch. It's going to be trending on Twitter, guys. Make it happen. Hashtag quarantine. So I was like walking outside and like I'm stuck in a really bad position because I have like a nosy neighbor in the front of the house who's just like super chatty. And then towards the back of the house is like a couple garbage bins where our neighbors are. And this huge fat raccoon stuck his head out of the garbage bin as I was walking by, and we had like a good old fashioned Mexican standoff in the driveway, like who was going to make the first move. Just like the two of us like eyeing each other down, like his beady little eyes are like looking into my soul. And then it's like I managed to like snap a couple pictures of him, and then he like literally pulled, he's like an iceberg. You only saw the cute bit of him, and then as he climbed out, his huge body slinked out of the garbage can, and like, he didn't even run, he just sauntered off. He wasn't even bothered by me, he just sauntered away.
What a sight.
It was hilarious.
I can't even imagine.
This is a normal thing. Like, they just come out and they're super bold. They'll just be like, hello, do you have food for me? And then mosey about their day. Okay, well, enough about raccoons. Nikki, tell us what's going on with you. What's happening? What's new with you?
With me, I went to the chiropractor. My chiropractor is awesome. His name is Dr. Dan.
Uh-huh.
So Dr. Dan did a session on me because I have serious TMJ right now, which is, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that for people who don't know what it is. It's basically when your jaw clicks when you open it too wide. So
yeah, it's basically like the ligaments, like the muscles in the back of your jaw get really tense, and then your jaw pops in and out because of all the strain.
Yes, so I've heard that it has to do with stress. For me,
yes.
I think it also is the result from being in 2 previous car accidents, almost back to back.
My goodness.
And we'll get into that in another episode. I can't even, with that. So I had 2 car accidents, and I went to him because I needed to do spinal decompression and a bunch of stuff. I lost like feeling in my right arm for a little bit, but then this thing is new. So I haven't had this before, but I don't know what happened. It just out of the blue one day, I felt like my whole bottom jaw shifted to the right, and I wasn't able to chew, which is super weird. I wasn't able to open my mouth super wide, not even super wide, just like normal opening. I wasn't able to do that. Yeah. And so I went to the chiropractor and I said that this is happening. I also went to the dentist. I went to the dentist first because I thought it was something that he could fix. and he did a mold of my teeth and actually got me a mouth guard. So I got a custom made mouth guard because he said that I possibly am grinding my teeth when I sleep.
Yeah, that's what causes mine, is grinding my teeth.
Apparently it's very common. I've never had it before because I'm one of those people that when I sleep, it's like I'm dead. I've been told that like people have checked on me to see if I was breathing at night because I don't move. If I sleep, I don't move. I make no sound. And they're like, oh, fuck, is she dead? So
holy crap.
But that's like very rare though, because as I mentioned before, I have insomnia. So it's really hard for me to sleep. So if I do fall asleep, it's a miracle. And then it's like I died. So there's that. So I went to the chiropractor to get my TMJ adjusted because he's been doing that for me for the past couple of months, but I wasn't able to see him when quarantine started because he's closed his doors.
Yes.
So I went back for the second time on the Tuesday this week, and it got worse. Like after the first adjustment, it was better, but then it got worse again. And he said, no chewing gum. So right after the session, he's like, Nikki, no chewing gum. I said, no problem. I don't chew gum anymore. I brush my teeth way too much.
Yes.
And people are concerned that I might get receding gums because I brush my teeth so often, probably about 4 to 5 times a day.
Oh,
after every time I eat. The reason for that is because I have a irrational fear of 2 things. 1 is going blind, and 2 is bad breath. And that stems from the bad breath stems from I had a professor at Emily Carr, and he's French. Like when I say French, like super French, he had the heaviest French accent. I feel like he wore the same dress shirt for like 2-3 days in a row.
Gross.
With like a bunch of paint on it. I'm not saying that all French people are like this, but this was the first impression that I have of anybody that I've known that is French. And he was a heavy smoker.
Yikes.
And then drank a lot of coffee or espresso or whatever. And he's very intimate with you. So during our painting, he would come up to you and he would say, oh, Nikki, I'm not even going to attempt a French accent, okay? So he's just go like, oh, Nikki, that's very nice. But like, I'm telling you, when he says that, he's about like only a palm distance away from you, okay? From your face. So I could smell the mixture of like super heavy scented cologne.
Like dry heaving.
And coffee and cigarettes, all at once, like a palm's length away from my face. Ever since then, I was like, there's no fucking way in hell that I would ever allow myself to ever smell like that. Not that I don't smoke cigarettes and I don't drink coffee, but it's just after eating, sometimes you feel like there's still a little bit left on your tongue or something, and I just have to brush my tongue rigorously and my teeth. So there's that.
Yeah.
But so I told him, I'm like, I don't worry about it. I'm not going to chew gum. I haven't chewed gum in a while. And he said, okay, but also don't put anything hard in your mouth, like i.e. apples. And let me just paint the picture here. We're both wearing masks, okay? Because obviously we have to wear a mask going to any place now. So I'm wearing a mask, and he goes, don't put anything hard in your mouth. And so my eyes lit up, and I was like,
God,
I gotta take this. So he said, like apples. And I go, of course, Dr. Dan, like apples. Apples are hard. And I don't think he got it. I really don't think he got it, just because you can only see my eyes. You can't say anything else, so the joke did not translate past the mask.
Oh my God. I mean, you saw the opportunity and you took it, I guess.
Of course, it's me, duh. Like,
Jesus
anytime
Christ.
that there is room for a dirty joke, I'm all for it.
But you're a chiropractor. I can't with you.
He's cool. Shout out to Dr. Dan on Dunbar. He's super cool. Okay.
Oh my gosh.
I love this guy. He's super funny, and he's fixed my back. And he's like fixed my neck. I went to this man when I lost like all sensation in my right arm, pretty much.
Oh my gosh, Nikki.
I know. That's again, that's a story for another time. But Dr. Dan, you're super awesome. That's my shout out to my chiropractor.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yes.
Well, I guess we might as well jump into everything today besides your dirty chiropractor jokes.
Right. You know you love
My
it.
goodness. Alrighty, well, we might as well just get into it today after your filthy chiropractor joke. Let's see. We had a question from one of our wonderful listeners. Shout out to you guys. Remember, please write in to edittorealpodcast@gmail.com or via our social media with all your questions.
Yes, ask us questions.
Yes, ask us the questions. And yeah, we decided we would take one today that we couldn't ignore.
Yes, and they wrote, my cousin's friend called her racist because she said she preferred not to marry outside her race. What is your take on interracial marriage? This is such a heavy question. We're getting such heavy set questions from our listeners.
I know. I feel like it's impossible to be funny because I have to handle this with such seriousness because people are wanting to hear what we have to offer them.
Right. I mean, we're silly in the beginning and then we get down to business.
Yes.
It's like a mullet is business in the front, but the party in the back. Like a reverse mullet. Sorry. So you got party in the front. So you got really long bangs. Is that how it works? And then you got a really short back, like a Karen haircut. Oh,
like a Karen haircut. Oh my gosh,
haircut. Yeah.
Yes.
But we're not. We do not associate with Karens.
Yes.
I'm sorry. If your name's Karen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But a meme is a meme.
Yeah, don't take it to heart. But if you are actually a Karen and your name Karen, then I have nothing to say to you.
Oh my God, Nikki, let's get into this. Jesus Christ.
Right, sorry. Yes, interracial marriage. Well, I've dated white guys before. Casually, very casually. And there would be a split moment. There would be a split moment when you are spending, when you're spending time with somebody, maybe sitting down, having dinner or whatever. And you're like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah.
And you think about maybe what it would be like. But then I only think about it for a split second because, as I mentioned, my plan was to be a monk for the past 3 years. So it doesn't really get past more thought than that. But there were times. And one of the things that I thought about was maybe my family expectations.
Yes.
There's things that I just cannot explain, or there's just things that you do that may not make sense to other people. I think I realize that more so when I'm older, that there's things that we do and we respect our elders in such a way that maybe some other cultures might not understand. So the first prime example I can come up with, maybe when you're at dim sum with your family and you and your white boyfriend comes along and I think Asian families nowadays, we have evolved, or our parents have evolved to think a little bit outside of their comfort zone, where not necessarily do they expect that person to know all these traditions of yours or rituals or whatever. So, for example, I will always pour the tea for my family because it's just what you do, right? Yeah. You pour tea for everybody older than you, your mom, your dad, your aunt, your uncle, grandma, grandpa, whatever, right?
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily. Yeah, exactly. And then if I am getting food, I use the communal chopstick and I grab food for everybody else beside me first, and then I grab food for myself.
Yes.
So maybe not necessarily are our parents expecting that your white boyfriend or whatever other different culture boyfriend is going to do that. But it is something that would be nice. It's going to earn them brownie points.
Yes.
So how do you tackle that? And I thought about that maybe for a split second. I'm like, you can explain to them, if I had a white boyfriend, hey, babe, can you pour tea for my family first?
Yeah.
The elders first and then for yourself. Always, if their cup is half full, refill it, right? Without saying anything.
Yeah.
And if they do, and then if someone else refills your cup, you got to tap on the table with your hand or your fingers and say thank you. That's how you say thank you. Mm-hmm. You tap on the table. They will do it if they're nice, right? If they're understanding, they'll do it.
Yeah.
But then it's do they really understand? They'll do it, but then do they understand? Yeah.
They don't understand the whole trajectory behind it. It's this is the cheat sheet that you need to know in order to get through family dim sum.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Just do the things. You don't have to understand why we do the things right now. Just do the things so we can get through this in one piece without any dirty looks from grandma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's like there's obviously different layers to that, right? Because especially also what if you're religious?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, my parents. I grew up in sort of like a blended religious household.
Mm,
So my mom still has a lot of her Hindu faith, and my dad's Presbyterian Christian. And the household that I lived in was primarily Presbyterian Christian. So, we were raised with Christmas, but we also celebrated Diwali. Those were just the things that happened in this house.
mm,
And
mm-hmm.
it was fine and everything was great. And I remember my mom, when I was really, really young, taking me to the home country for a prayer ceremony that had to be done and sitting there and like watching the ceremony go down. And there's parts where certain people have to do certain things, just like in a lot of religious ceremonies.
Right, right.
And I remember being called up to do something and not knowing what to do. And like the pundits looking at me like I'm an idiot, and my cousins are looking at me like I'm an idiot. Just feeling
Mm,
so, so small
mm,
about what should be inherent to you is really absurd and really upsetting. And I remember going back to my aunt's place that night and being like, I don't understand. I don't understand what happened. I don't understand why we did this. I don't understand. No one explained anything to me. And I
mm.
think coming from sort of that blended household and not only being exposed to one half of that was a little bit lacking for me. And there are some days where I still don't understand why my mom does things on
Of
certain
course,
days.
yeah.
So thinking about the intergenerational sort of repercussions of that is harsh. I mean, both my parents are South Asian. They just grew up in two different religions, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit difficult to grasp sometimes. But it is the ultimate lesson in tolerance and understanding for sure. So I think
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like intergenerational marriage and dating, it's like you also have to think long term about like how the next generation after you is going to be affected by all of it.
Right. So it's not even just about being one interracial couple, but also you have to think about like the beliefs.
Yes.
And even if you are from the same race, that a belief system can weigh heavily on your relationship. And then if you think about having children,
Yeah.
what is that picture going to look like? Because for me, I can't say that I was raised religious. I'm really not.
Hmm.
My parents do things that just your normal Chinese parents would do. So during 2 times a year, we would give incense to our ancestors
Yeah.
on the specific days. In China, it's a little bit more intense
Yeah.
where you can only visit your family's grave twice a year. So if you actually visit the grave anytime not on those days,
Yeah.
it's actually a taboo. Like
Really?
it is, yeah, because then if somebody finds out that you do it, then they're gonna think that you brought bad luck
Oh
into the family. Yeah.
my
So
gosh.
unless it was something that was special. So like how for me, my grandma passed away in China and I went back 1 year. I wasn't able to make the funeral because I
Hmm.
had to take care of my brother and sister. I was still in like first year university, and my brother and sister were still in high school, so I had to take care of them while my dad and my mom went back. So it was impossible for the whole family to go back during that time. So I missed the funeral,
Yeah.
and I wasn't able to go back for another like 2 years
My
after
gosh.
that. So when I went back to China, it wasn't during those times where I could go visit the grave. So if
Hmm.
it was something special like that, where I'm coming from another country to just specifically visit my grandma's grave, then I can do that. But it's still kind of frowned upon. And the crazy story that I have about this, and I've had just a little sidebar here, I've had two weird kind of ghost stories. And this is one of them. Not
Ooh,
ghost stories, but something that's just out of this world kind of experience.
I love
And
that
this
kind of
was
stuff.
and this was one of them where I went back about 2 years after my grandma passed away. And back in China, there's still some graves that are, depending on, I guess, your family line and where they come from.
Hmm.
My grandma's buried with all her family as well. And they're up on a mountain, like literal mountainside.
My goodness.
And there are these massive family graves. But she as I guess because she's a little bit further down the line, so she's buried with her family, but not in like the mass family grave. So she's buried there, and then they also made a room for my grandpa for when he passed. So at that time, my grandpa was still alive. So I went back and I went to go visit the grave, and I had a really close relationship with my mom's side. So this is my mom's side's family. So I had a really close relationship with my grandma. And when I went back, my dad was there with me, and he drove me to the grave, which is like maybe 3 hours away from the city that he lived in. That's how far away it was. I was like, Dad, grandma loves to eat like roasted goose leg. So we went to go and get that in the morning, and we drove 3 hours out to the grave. And when we got there, keep in mind, this is China, and it was super hot. Like, it was in the middle of summer, super hot. The forecast said that it was like the hottest it's ever been, hashtag global warming. And there was no forecast for rain for the next like couple of weeks. So we get there. My dad's like, don't stay too long because I don't want you to get a stroke. So I was like, okay.
Fair.
So we go. And when I saw her grave, because there's no picture, it was just the name. But when I saw the name, I completely died inside. I collapsed. My legs went weak, and I wasn't able to stand up. So I actually fell and started kneeling at her grave because I couldn't feel my legs. And I cried, let me tell you, cried so loud because, again, nobody was here because it's not during the 2 times of the year where you can go visit the grave. And nobody was there. You could hear my cries from so far out, I'm sure. My dad's like trying to comfort me, tell me that she's, in a better place and everything. And I just couldn't move. I couldn't talk. Like, the skin on my legs actually started to burn a little because it was all on stone. That's been under the sun for forever.
Oh gosh.
So I started to cry so hard, and then get this, for some odd reason, it started to rain like no tomorrow.
Oh my goodness.
It rained so hard that my dad's like, what the fuck? And he ran to the car to get an umbrella. And then when he came back, he's like, it's not supposed to rain today. It's not supposed to rain at all for the next couple of weeks. I guess I was crying so hard. My dad's like, you got to stop. Like, I think grandma's up there telling you to stop. So I was able to gather myself together. My dad had to carry me to the car because I wasn't able to walk. And then again, creepy thing, the moment I got into the car and my dad got into the car, it stopped raining. Like, it immediately stopped raining.
That's insane.
And the sun came out again. I was like, what the fuck? My dad was so shocked. He started telling everybody on WeChat, and he's like, this just happened. I think my daughter just made it rain. So supernatural stuff. But as I mentioned, this is something like that maybe not everybody would understand and have this mind, like have this thought that, oh, this correlates to this. But yeah. So the fact that we're so close with our relatives and Asians, we usually have really big families, right? And how much we respect our elders. This is something that cannot be taught at a later age.
It's inherently known.
Exactly. It was innate in me, and also it was built throughout the years of my childhood, was that this is the proper way and this is the only way. So again, not being religious, I still do these things, like go and visit graves or go and give incense and go to the temple the first day of the Lunar New Year just to pray for good luck and health for my family. I'll do those things. Yeah. But I can't say that I am Buddhist, or I can't say that I'm religious in any way.
Yeah. And I mean, I sort of see that. Like, I'm not all that religious to this day. Like, I have my personal beliefs. And those are the ones that I do honor and that I do keep up. But the idea, I don't know, I fight with it a little bit, because even though I do like the idea of keeping those traditions, there's so much like stuff that comes along with like South Asian culture. There's like the whole archetype of like the mother-in-law. and the mother-in-law in terms of the daughter-in-law and like that dynamic.
I know that so well.
And it's like, it's this very funny archetype that you see in the movies and you see in the TV shows. It's this thing where there's supposed to be all of this like malevolence between daughter-in-law and mother-in-law.
Pretty much all Asian dramas.
Every single one across the continent of Asia. It's not even like to one country.
Yeah.
So it's like, I consider the idea of like, do I want to give up my crazy Indian mother for a crazy Indian South for a mother-in-law?
Or a even crazier?
Yes. Do I want to deal with that? Absolutely not. The idea of that is terrifying. So it's like, I see both sides of it. I understand not wanting to deal with sort of like the familial integration and all of like the archetypes and like the social norms that comes along with it. So I see both sides of it.
So you're saying that you wouldn't marry
the
same race?
I don't think I would. Then again, I don't think I would get married in general. I don't like the idea of people being in my space. I'm a hermit. I like being in my like turtle shell by myself.
You mentioned that. No, but seriously, like if you did want to, would you say that you're more leaning towards marrying outside your race then?
I mean, ideally, I'd want to marry Ben Schwartz, and he's not South Asian, so yeah.
Right. Ben Schwartz, if you're listening.
Oh, God.
Again,
Jesus
Chris is
Christ.
single.
Oh, God. Jesus Christ. But for real, though, I don't think I would want to deal with sort of the external family stuff that goes along with it.
Would it be easier, do you think?
Yes.
Would it be easier to marry within your race?
I think it definitely would be, but simply for knowing all of the ancestral things and all of like the family traditions and all the cultural things, 100%. I think it would totally be the easiest thing on paper, but then societally, I don't think so.
Do you mean your Hindu side or do you mean
my Hindu side?
Okay.
For sure. Yeah. I think it's so weird to have to like talk about myself in like this dichotomy of the Christian versus the Hindu side.
But this is what this show is about.
I know. This is so fun getting to talk about my multiple personalities.
Okay, sarcasm. Sarcasm much.
For sure. But for me personally, it would be harder to sort of date within South Asian culture because I didn't really grow up with it that much. But like to date someone who's also Christian would be so easy. I mean, you know, I went to church my whole life until I was a teenager. Like I did Bible study. I can't imagine
what that was like.
Oh yeah. Well, our grandfather, God rest his soul, was the perfect example of what a Christian patriarch should look like. He read the Bible with us growing up. He really made sure that we understood morals and all of that. Yeah, so I have a lot of that still. In all of like the muddled ways that he's taught us. So yeah, like I grew up with a lot of it. So it would be easier in that sense. Yeah.
I walked into church twice in my adult years. And both times, I kid you not, is the moment I walked in, I was overcome with the feeling of nauseousness. Like,
oh my God. Nikki,
nauseated. No, trust me. Like, I'm not making this shit up. I honestly I tried to go to I don't even know what it's called, when the priest guy goes and ups on stage and just talks.
When he gives a sermon, yes.
Right. So I went to one of those with my godfather and walked into this church. And he's like, oh, you're not allowed to, because they were passing around, I'm guessing, like the wine and the bread.
For communion, yes.
Yes. And he said, no, you can't have that because you're not, baptized or whatever. I'm like, okay, no, that's fine. I'm like, do you guys just really get lit on wine at church? They're like, no, it's just like colored water juice or whatever. So I was like, oh, okay. So I'm like, this is interesting.
Fun story. I never have actually drank any of the communion wine growing up either.
But it's not even wine, Chris.
I know, but like, I just wanted to be careful.
Okay, right. So back to my story. I go and then I'm like, hey, I really have to duck out to the bathroom. And he's like, are you okay? I'm like, I want to throw up. Like in the most, like, don't get me wrong, way possible. I feel like I need to throw up.
Oh my
God. So I go to the bathroom and try to like I gag and I try to throw up, but nothing comes out. And I look up to the ceiling of the bathroom. I'm like, dude, I'm so sorry. there's so much faith here. Maybe I'm not welcomed. Like maybe a part of me is the devil. I don't know. I'm so
Stop.
sorry to have come into your space.
That is
So
the
I go
Lord
back
Jesus trying to like get you to come in. He's like
to save my soul, to just jam himself down my throat and be like, let me save you from the inside. No, I was like, I go back to my godfather. Yo, I really can't. Like, I'll wait for you in the
I'm
car.
crying.
Like, I honestly, there's too much faith here. And like,
There's too much faith here.
props to everybody that is religious though, because there's a lot of people who believe that faith have saved them from something, right? They
Yes.
maybe saved them from a disease or an illness or sickness or like anything like that. I'm all for it. I'm all for people who love their religion, who's into, something that gives them faith, who gives them a sense of community, and something that you want to fall back on, because there's a lot of people who have like kind of wavering personalities, or somebody who needs just something solid to hold on to, and that might be their religion, which again, super happy for those people who found faith and found their religion that works for them. But if you go and you try to shove your religion down my throat, that's work.
Not cool. That's not cool.
Yeah.
I don't like preachiness. Like preachiness I associate with cults, which I do love. I do love me a good cult.
Right.
But
we all know that, Chris.
I love me a good cult. Cults and Caviar is coming to a YouTube screen near you one of these days.
One day.
One of these days. Yeah, I never am very preachy about my beliefs. I'm like, here are the things that work for me. If they work for you too, that's cool. But this is what I do. But you do you, boo-boo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't like
force
the idea of it. Exactly. Don't spoon feed it to me. I don't need any of that.
Like if you come from a non-religious family and you find religion yourself, that's different, right? Versus, and here's a debate that I had kind of had with my godfather too, which was his family is Christian and his wife's family, everything. I think they met at church. They raised their children to also be religious. Now, it's something that I asked him before in a very non-confronting way, which was, how are you going to introduce religion to them in a way where they can have free will to choose their own religion? Because when they're young and they're children, or they're toddlers,
they're impressionable, yeah.
Yeah, and also they only know the world that you have built around them.
Yeah.
So they might not know what being non-religious is. Like they're baptized when they're super young, and they go to Sunday school or whatever it is, and they listen to sermons, and that's all they know. They grow up on that. So how would they know that is maybe not the norm? Maybe that is their norm, but I mean, like, how would they know that there is something else out there that's not their religion? Because you've already introduced it to them when they're young. So Chris, like, you obviously were raised in a Christian family. You now being a full-grown adult, how do you feel about, what if your father gave you the option of becoming religious instead of, hey, you're already religious because you are my kid and I'm religious, so by default you're religious?
Yeah, I think I outgrew a lot of it. And I feel like schooling had a lot to do with that. Like going to a public school and meeting all of like the kids who had different upbringings and came from different parts of the world. I always refer to our public school lunch table as the UN, right? Like we all sort of learned about each other. We all learned about our religions. We all learned about our beliefs. And then it was like, I wish almost every kid could do, where it's like you pick the things that you want to pick and those are the things that you stick with. So I liked the idea that I didn't drink. I liked the idea that I kept myself pure. I liked the idea of all those things, but I still, believe in evolution, and I believe in women's free will, and I believe in all of those other things, right? So it's like I almost picked the things that I wanted to believe in that applied to me as a fully formed adult. And I mean,
you modified your beliefs. Okay.
Of course. Yeah. Like, of course I believe in the story of the Good Samaritan. I always believe in doing good and not doing harm. I want to make sure that there's a lot of good put in the world, but do I also believe that women shouldn't be able to vote? No, that's a terrible thing, right? So it's like, you sort of evolve and adapt. And I mean, that again comes with sort of the situation that you have your kids in the real world as well, outside the home. I was lucky enough, I went to a really public school. So literally all of the kids that were there were from all different backgrounds, all grew up in the same neighborhood. So we had sort of the same cultural experience growing up, but we all had our home lives. So we would bring that into school every day and share with each other and learn from each other. And I think if I had gone to like a Catholic school or something else, like I would have been completely ill-exposed to what the world had to offer me. So it's like I'm happy with what ended up happening, and I think that's a really good way to do it. I went to Sunday school every Sunday. I went to church every Sunday. I did Bible study all the time with my grandfather, but then I also, you know, played hopscotch in the yard with the kids who identified as Muslim and the kids who identified as Buddhist. We all sort of like explained what was happening in our households, and that's how we learned and that's how we grew.
I think that sometimes if you come from two very different backgrounds, it could be a very interesting dynamic, and it could be a cool relationship where you develop your own household's kind of beliefs and ethics and move forward with that with your children. So another question for you then I have, Chris, is if you do end up having children, would you already raise them to be religious, or would you give them the choice when they're of an age where they can make that decision? Say maybe like, I don't know, when do kids have a brain? Like 8, 10? I don't know.
Yeah, right? I think a lot of what I would do in this alternate reality where I have kids, because kids are terrifying and I want nothing to do with them.
What if Ben Schwartz wanted kids?
I would say no. I would fully say no. I would be like, nah, dude, it was nice knowing you, but like, I'm out.
But he's your dream man.
I don't care. I absolutely do not want children. Like, I do not want any part of it.
Damn it.
Dead serious. That's how deadlocked I am on it.
But then you could adopt a kid and not necessarily get married, and then they could take on your cool last name.
My goal eventually is when I'm like 45, I want to adopt like a 13-year-old and like give them the best couple years of their lives and then like send them off to university and like watch them thrive. Like, I'd like to do that because then it's less parenting and it's more like, what's up, my dude? I want to nurture you into being a whole individual.
Right.
Yeah. It's more of like it's like a big brother, big sister kind of thing. Like, yo, my dude, let me show you the ways of the world.
But then he calls you mom.
No, I'd be like, yo, you can call me Auntie. That's what you can call me.
You freaking weirdo.
Auntie Chris.
I want to adopt a 14-year-old when I'm 40, and you can call me Auntie.
Literally. Oh my God, they don't even have to call me Auntie. I'm like, yo, you can call me Chris. It's fine.
What an alternate universe that would be.
Back to the question, I think I wouldn't impose any sort of religion on them. Like, I have my lifestyle that I think I would impose for a certain amount of years until they're able to make their own decisions.
Right.
I would inform them the way that I was later informed in my life about what sort of goes along with decisions that you make later on in life, how to be safe making those decisions, and let them do as they please. I mean, who am I to be the person to rule with an iron fist, right?
Would you be one of those moms that if you had a daughter, you're like, I was celibate until I married your dad, so you cannot be touched by boys? Oh, okay.
I don't think so. I've been like, listen, if you would like to be safe and you want to make choices about your body that are well-informed and you understand the consequences of your body, live your best life. But just make sure that you are very careful and you understand that it is your body and it is your choice. So
your body is a temple.
Yes. So treat it as such. But otherwise, I feel like, listen, just do no harm. Be as, safe as you can and just like do you.
And don't tell me about it. I swear to God,
don't tell me about it. And I swear to God, if you're failing any class because of it, I will ground you for the rest of your life. You are going to a monastery.
Wow, you're more white than me. I would have smacked the shit out of them. Because there's such thing. There's no word. There's no such thing as grounded in an Asian family. It's more like, where's my belt? And we'll just whip the shit out of you.
I mean, yeah, I got that too. But like, I'm trying to be, progressive about it.
I think that, like, I was talking to my chiropractor and he was, and he's saying, yeah, I had to spank my kid the other day because he kept throwing shit off the balcony or whatever.
What?
I'm like, oh, so you're not, I'm like, oh, so you're not one of those parents that like, oh, those white parents that like tell them to stand in a corner and they're grounded for like, a day or something, or like take away their iPad. How is that a punishment?
Take away your iPad.
I was bruised, okay? Like you don't learn until you were smacked around. So I was saying, oh, you actually spanked him. Like you hit him. He's like, yeah, I do like spank him, right? But then I tell him why I did it. And then I explain to him that it hurts me more than it hurts you. And I was like, oh, fuck no. Asian parents, they just hit you and they're like,
you know what you
wrong. Did. Yeah, you know what you did. You're wrong, okay? Like, this is the punishment that you get. No explanation.
There's no Pavlovian response. There's no I am hitting you for this reason. It's like,
or like,
no,
oh,
I'm hitting
you.
It
hurts me. Or like, I love you.
No.
It's like, you got a failing grade? Or like, what do you mean your teacher called and said that you missed class? Like, fucking backhand,
Oh, yeah. My goodness.
So I'm like, you white kids that grew up with like parents that said, Jeremy, you're grounded. Oh my God. If I married a white guy and that was his way of disciplining children, I would come off as the worst mother in the world, because
oh my goodness,
here's white boy going like, no, son, you can't do this.
Tallulah, I need you to look at me right now, okay?
The what fuck, you did,
Tallulah, I need you to look at me right now, because the way that you looked at Jeremy was not very polite, okay? I need you to look at me. I need you to understand, okay? We're going to put on our get along shirt and we're going to understand that we need to get along with Jeremy, okay? All right. Now you just go ahead and run along. Don't do anything to Jeremy again. We're going to put on our get along shirt and it's going to be fine. And it's going to be great, okay? See, we're learning.
Yeah, we're learning. No, I'd be like, backhand, and don't do that again. You bring dishonor to the family. That is how Asian families do it. But
it's true. Your grandfather is rolling in his grave right now.
Oh yeah. Like, okay, cool. Bring the guilt. Bring the guilt of the grandparents. Like, your grandmother didn't raise you to be like this. How dare you bring
your
shame
grandfather
to
came to this country with no money in his pocket for you to act like this?
Fuck. Your granddad came to Canada with only $10,000 and bought your grandmother a car that costed $9,999, okay?
You know how much that left him with? $1!
Exactly! And you go and behave like a little shit? We're getting way too intense on this. I think we should switch gears.
It's like we're feeling this deeply in our souls right now. I feel like, yes, we should put a pin on this. I got a question from one of my awesome ex-coworkers. She wanted to know, how does she keep herself from eating her entire fridge during quarantine?
What a great question. Such a light question to finish off the show here.
Yes, my goodness. I'm so excited to talk about this because I eat when I'm bored and I eat when I'm angry. Like, I'm very much an emotional eater.
Oh, yes.
So it's like the minute I have like nothing to do in the house and the first thing I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I'm going to eat a half a bag of Doritos, and this is going to be fine. I'm going to eat so many dill pickle chips. I'm going to be briny from the inside. It's going to be great.
love the dill pickle chips.
The dill pickle chips.
Second to the all-dressed chips. And maybe tied with ketchup chips.
You know what? For me, it's dill pickle followed very closely by salt and vinegar. I love me a good salt and vinegar. Ooh, you get like a Miss Vicky salt and vinegar chip where it's like uber crunchy. Oh, delicious.
Yes,
oh, I'm like salivating. Agree. This is terrible. Okay, but for real though, keep yourself occupied so you're not bored. Pick up a hobby. Pick up podcasting, for instance, like Nikki and
pottery.
Or pottery. Shout out to Richard Banyard, who's a pottery enthusiast, who's a fan of the show.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Hi, Richard.
Hi.
But yeah, pick up something to do.
Literally.
Maybe a jigsaw puzzle.
Oh my God. I don't want to talk about my 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle. It's like looking at me with chagrin right now. It's not cute. But yeah, definitely, it's something to do. I just got my DSLR camera that I'm learning how to shoot manual like a fool. So that's going to take up easily the next 3 days of my life. So I'm not going to have time to snack. I'm not going to have to worry about snackage. Yeah.
Other than that, keeping occupied, I think for me, it's kind of like prepping in advance.
Yes.
So you kind of portion out what you eat. So for example, meal prepping your lunch and your dinner.
Yes.
So you portion out. Obviously, you can snack, but if there is an alternative, like sometimes you just have to put something in your mouth.
Get it. Oh, Jesus Christ, Nikki. It always takes me so long to catch it too. My God.
If you just need to put something in your mouth, go for the healthy alternative. So if you
stick of celery,
want to pick up, or, I don't know.
Some carrot sticks.
Skinny popcorn instead of chips.
Sure.
I don't know. Something that is an alternative that gives you the same amount of satisfaction, but doesn't have the consequences of feeling, bad, guilty, feeling sick on the inside because you are in quarantine. You can't go to the gym to work off whatever you feel like you just ate that would take a couple of years off your life. So
it's funny because it's true.
Right. So unless you're like Chris that joins into a Zoom meeting every day to do a workout, maybe go for the healthy alternative, or use your smoothie maker, because I've been making breakfast smoothies and it's so easy. You get yourself a bunch of frozen fruit, some avocado, banana for the sweetness, a little agave syrup maybe. Just make a couple of jars of breakfast smoothies and then just have, I don't know, a smoothie during your midday snack instead of reaching for your bag of, dill pickle chips.
Very fair. Very fair. I mean, I've gotten to the point now where I spend my time doing the things during the day. I make sure I eat my meals per day, but I'm not gorging myself. I'm not on my feet throughout the day anymore. So it's like if I'm, fiddling with a camera, if I'm fiddling with a jigsaw puzzle, if I'm reading a book, if I'm doing whatever that I'm doing, I'm making sure that I'm not just eating a whole, 3-course dinner just for me. Don't overfill yourself. Just, eat what you need.
But then it's when you're bored, I get it, because I've been in that position, right? Or actually I am still in that position that I just keep wanting to eat because it's something to do with my hands. My hands get bored and I want to shove stuff in my mouth and I want to eat this or chew this. So I don't know, go out there, get yourself something hard to, if you like sweets, get a hard candy, like a super hard candy or a super big lollipop that's super hard.
Like a jawbreaker, big one.
That you can't finish, or, not gummies that you could just pop one every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But so you can have, and enjoy sweetness for a while and then brush your teeth after. Crazies.
Yes.
Don't get cavities. Not a good time to get cavities right now in quarantine.
Very fair. Yeah. And then if you are like me and you like sweets, but you also, don't want to be diabetic, can't get the sugar beaties, man.
Oh, God.
You got to do fruit. Just put in your fruit and veg for the day. Add that, I a sucker for blackberries. I have blackberries in my yogurt, on my cereal. Yeah, and that I'll pop a couple of those if I want something sweet and sugary and delicious. It's perfect.
I realize that our advice doesn't work for people who are on a keto diet because they can't have sugar, right? So they don't eat fruit. So for the people that are on a keto diet,
eat a cheese stick? I don't know.
You can make vegan bacon. Since I went pescatarian, I have been researching a bunch of alternate meat ideas or meal ideas.
Expand and explain for full marks here.
Right. Expand and explain for full marks. What the fuck is this, math class?
I feel like anyone who knows me personally has heard me say that countless times. So, Nikki, expand and explain for full marks. Right. Vegan bacon?
Okay. Vegan bacon. So I saw this on TikTok. I think TikTok and me have been best friends since this quarantine started. So you can use rice rice paper, like the Vietnamese rice paper wraps, and you can make a concoction of like liquid smoke, sugar, salt, whatever, blah, blah, blah. If you're keto, don't put in the sugar, whatever, with a bunch of other things. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. And you dunk the rice paper into it, and then you put it in the oven, and it comes out all crispy, and it tastes like bacon.
Huh. Well,
okay. Without the fat and without the meat. So, keto people. Vegan keto bacon? People. I don't know.
Okay, I'm gonna do some Googling because I'm like genuinely fascinated by
Wait,
that.
They can't eat carbs. Does rice paper have carbs? Oh, fuck, it's made of rice. Okay, keto people don't eat anything. Fuck, I don't know.
Listen, eat some carrot sticks and call it a day.
Right. With some ranch.
Done. Yeah.
Maybe not cut out I don't know. Maybe not the ranch. I don't know.
I mean, I hope that solves some of the problems, and we hope that will keep you from eating your entire fridge.
Oh, well, put a lock on it, buddy. Put a lock on your fridge or something.
I mean, yeah, you could do that.
That's the more extreme way.
I have zero self-control. Like, I'll be like, yes, this will keep me from doing it. Then, like, 2 seconds later, I'm, like, breaking into it. Like that raccoon I saw in my garbage bin earlier. See that?
Oh, full circle. We went full circle. Well, that means it's time to wrap up this episode. Thank you guys so much for joining in today's episode of Edit to Real. Again, if you have any questions, please email us at edittorealpodcast@gmail.com. And please follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at edittoreal. We love to hear from you guys.
Yes, send us your questions there as well. You can reach us 1,000 different ways. Send them to us. We love hearing from you guys.
Right. So until next time, everybody, stay safe and stay real.
Stay real.